After graduation, everyone makes noise at the bar, discussing their lives and future plans. However, Joshu feels very sad because he has to return to Yi with all the problems awaiting him. Wok-soo drives the drunk Sang Yan home, planning to sleep at the hotel. However, Sang Yan's mother restrains him, asking him to stay at their house. In the middle of the night, Sang Ji asks Joshu why he hasn't slept yet. Joshu doesn't tell her the problem but can feel that he is unhappy. Sang Ji urges him to share the problems, but she also mentions that she will only accompany him if he isn't ready to tell her about his issues. Seeing that sincerity, Joshu tells Sang Ji a little about his problem, mentioning that he owes someone a lot. Sang Ji seriously asks Joshu not to worry because she will help him after making money herself. Joshu then explains that all the debts are not Sang Ji's responsibility and asks her to buy her own needs if she can earn money someday. Sang Ji, unable to sleep, writes a wish on a piece of paper, expressing her desire to quickly make money and help Joshu pay off his debt. After folding it into a little star, she puts the wish paper in the milk bottle that Joshu had given her before. Before dawn, Joshu leaves secretly, but Sang Ji sees him from the balcony, and Joshu waves at Sang Ji. Jiatsu texts that he has to catch an early flight and reminds Sang Ji not to forget her exams. Sang Ji continues to study hard and is now in her third year of high school. Her goal after graduation is to enter Yi University so she can be closer to Joshu. However, her enthusiasm fades when Sang Ji accidentally hears the news that Joshu already has a girlfriend. Her heart is very broken, and she actually wants to ask Joshu, but she doesn't have the courage. Sang Ji thinks that Joshu has broken his promise, a promise to introduce his girlfriend to her. First, Sang Ji decides to ask Jutsu directly, and Sang Yan is furious when he finds out that his sister has flown to Yi alone. So he immediately asks Jutsu to pick up Sang Jae. At that time, Sang Ji says that she went to Yi to meet her online dating mate. Sang Yan and his parents are worried, but they don't realize the real reason. Then Joshu appears with the woman. Seeing this, Sang Ji has many questions in her heart. She wonders if this woman is Joshu's girlfriend. Sang Ji is silent until finally she cries and says that her online dating mate didn't like her and thought she was too young. It is clear that this is just Sang Ji's excuse to cover up her sadness. Joshu then comforts her by saying that Sang Ji will find someone better when she grows up. Hearing that, Sang Ji becomes even sadder and thinks that when she grows up, Joshu will also find a woman better than her. Sang Ji goes to the toilet crying. She sees that the woman is very familiar with Joshu, which makes Sang Ji even sadder. After crying, Sang Ji returns to see Joshu. Meanwhile, the woman who was with Jiak-soo has already left because she has work to do. Joshu has bought a plane ticket for Sang-ji, and he takes her out to eat before flight time. Later, Sang Ji hands Joshu a tie as a gift that she previously failed to give at the graduation ceremony. Then Sang Jae secretly puts money into Joshu's wallet to change the plane ticket. Finally, Sang Ji hands over the teddy bear that Joshu had picked up on the claw machine and says that she hopes the doll will keep Joshu happy. Joshu accepts it with a smile, and they finally go their separate ways. Sang-in picks Sang Ji up at the airport, but he doesn't scold her because he doesn't think it's the right time. Sang Ji continues to cry all the way home. Luckily, her parents try to understand her feelings and do not immediately judge her so as not to scare her. After what happens, Sang Ji decides to move on. She puts all the things related to Joshu into the box and says goodbye. Time passes, and finally Sang Ji is accepted at Yi University in the digital media department. According to her wishes, she lives a pleasant life. She takes military training and classes and meets wonderful roommates. When one of Sang Ji's friends has a birthday, everyone celebrates at a karaoke place. At that time, Jak-soo is at the same place to attend an invitation from his colleagues. Sang Ji and Ju Ksu walk in the same hallway, but neither of them notices each other. Sang Ji, who is not used to crowds, then goes out to get some fresh air, and that's when she meets Joshu, who is sitting on the stairs. Joshu feels a little unhappy because Sang Ji has ignored his messages all this time. Joshu feels that Sang Ji doesn't care about him even though he doesn't know what he has done wrong. Actually, Sang Ji ignores Joshu's message because she wants to move on. But after meeting him again, Sang Ji reasons that she is too busy studying to get accepted into her dream university. Joshu accepts Sang Ji's excuse, and he takes her home even though he has to travel quite a distance. That night, Joshu says that he is alone, and when he hears the news from Sang Yan that Sang Ji is going to study in Yi, he feels very happy. The confession makes Sang Ji confused, and her feelings are mixed. She is even more curious because, as far as she knows, Yi is Joshu's hometown. Besides, his family is also here, and he already has a girlfriend, so how could he be lonely after graduating from college? Joshu works at a fairly well-known game company, and he is highly relied on by his company. The woman who went with Jiak-soo to the airport, Cyan, also works at the same place. Turns out she's nothing more than Joshu's colleague and boss. On the other hand, Sang-ji invites Jiak-soo to dinner as a thank you. Sang-ji also wants to use this opportunity to get to know Joshu better because it seems that there are still many things she doesn't know about Joshu. On the other hand, there's a student from the sports department who likes Sang-ji. His name is Jong Ming. He takes Sang-ji to the movies, and her roommates want to come too. Sang-ji wants to refuse because she already has an appointment with Joshu on the weekend, but she can't explain it because her roommates really want her to go to the movies. Thus, Sang-ji has no choice but to agree. On the other hand, a woman who really cares about Joshu sends several things, but Shu always throws them away. Apparently, Joshu owed the woman something, and after paying it off, Joshu asked her not to contact him anymore. The woman was Xiaoying, and she feels very sad because Joshu continues to ignore her messages. On weekends, Sang-ji prefers to meet with Joshu just like her initial plan. However, Joshu seems to have to cancel this appointment. Sang-ji feels that Joshu is not feeling well, so she hurriedly asks for his office address and rushes to meet him. Joshu's face is so pale because his stomach hurts. Sang-ji immediately calls a taxi, and she accidentally crashes into Jak-soo on the side of the road until Joshu accidentally kisses Sang-ji's forehead. It turns out Jak-soo suffered from appendicitis and decided to proceed with surgery. Meanwhile, Sang-ji waits outside, and at the same time, her mother calls. After telling the situation, Sang-ji learns some stories about Joshu's past. Sang-ji's mother had never mentioned this matter before that in the past. Joshu once borrowed money from their family to pay for the treatment of his sick mother. Joshu continued to work hard until he could pay off his debt within 6 months, but in the end, his mother died. Sang-ji almost cried after hearing this story, and she finally understood why Joshu is always busy working. After the operation is complete, Joshu urges Sang-ji to go home immediately and not worry about him. But after that, Joshu keeps thinking about the previous incident when he accidentally kissed Sang-ji's forehead. After some time, Sang-yan calls to express his concern but in a nonchalant manner. At that time, Joshu wants to explain something to Sang-yan, but he thinks better of it. Apparently, Sang-ji couldn't afford to leave Joshu until she decided to accompany him. Sang-ji believes that Joshu would do the same if she was sick because Joshu is unable to get out of bed. Sang-ji offers to help him wipe his face before going to sleep, and Sang-ji does it with great attention. The next day, Joshu asks Sang-ji to get his laptop at his house. But Sang-ji refuses and says that Joshu has to rest. Hearing Sang-ji grumbling makes Joshu realize that the girl is indeed an adult. After finishing her activities in class, Sang-ji goes to Joshu's house to take some clothes. At that time, Sang-ji doesn't expect Joshu to still have a photo with her at his graduation. And after seeing a photo of Joshu's mother, Sang-ji introduces herself. Then Shu Ying comes right after Ji leaves, and she doesn't know that Joshu is being treated in the hospital, and currently, the house is empty. Sang-jae returns to the hospital and brings Jiak-shu's laptop. However, she warns him not to work too hard. The old man beside Joshu's bed thinks that Sang-ji is Joshu's wife. But Joshu then explains that Sang-ji is his younger sister. However, the old man apparently couldn't hear well and still thinks that they are a perfect couple. Joshu agrees with his words and responds with a joke. But apparently, Sang-ju is not happy with this joke. She always hides her feelings carefully, but Joshu easily made a joke about it. Sang-ji thinks that maybe for Joshu, they'll have no relationship other than brother and sister. That is why Joshu can make like that. After returning home from the hospital, Sang-ji is so attentive that she makes lots of notes for Jak-soo to maintain his diet. After leaving, Sang-ji comforts herself and accepts the fact that she is just a little sister for Ji-soo. Besides that, Jak-soo notices that Sang-ji changes her attitude and he's worried that she will be angry. After telling it to Yun, she suggested Joshu ask Sang-ji to have dinner together and also discuss this matter. Sang-ji couldn't refuse. When Joshu asked her to have dinner on New Year's Eve, Joshu apologized to Sang-ji for the joke he had made at the hospital. But Sang-ji said that it was not a big problem. Then they were chatting about many things, but Shu Ying happened to see them as she was angry. She splashed Joshu and felt that he had ignored her. Sang Ji couldn't accept this, so she splashed Xu Ying too, and it made Xu Ying even more furious. In fact, Xiaoying said that Jiaxu owes her a lifetime debt. In the end, Xiaoying was dragged away by her friend and the cafe workers. Sang Ji helps Jiaxu wipe the water on his face and asks who the woman is. But Jiaxu just explains that his father owed the woman money. Sang Ji remembers that she once ran into her and is worried that she will continue to pester her. Jiaxu, seeing how Sang Ji cared so much about him, made him moved. The door to his heart seemed to be knocked, and he was very grateful. It snowed that night, and Sang Ji secretly made a wish. She hoped Jiaxu kept away from unpleasant things and hoped that he could be by her side. Jiaxu did the same thing. He made a wish and hoped that Sang Ji would always be happy and healthy. After Jiaxu arrives at his house, Xu Ying is already waiting for him and apologizes for her actions at the cafe earlier. She is still mad because Jiaxu ignored her and she demanded accountability for past events. The scene then shows Jack Xu in the past. At that time, he is a high school student. Xiaoyang was his and her classmate attracted to him until one day Xiaoying's father died due to an accident caused by Jiaxu's father. Jiaxu's family tried to make amends by paying compensation money determined by the court. Jiaxu's mother also promised that her family would take care of Xiaoying. But when Jiaxu tries to be nice to Xiaoying, she's always ignored him. Things got worse when Jiaxu's mother died and he barely had time to pay attention to Xiaoying because he was busy working. Apparently, Xiaoying still likes Jiaxu, but her love slowly turns into an obsession. She demands Jiaxu to love her as a form of responsibility for incidents in the past, and because of that, Jiaxu doesn't like it. After what happens, Jiaxu feels better after seeing Sang Ji's photo, which somehow gives him peace. He watches the fireworks on the roof and texts with Sang Ji, who is also enjoying the excitement of New Year's Eve. On one occasion, Xiaoyan causes a commotion at Jiaxu's company. At the same time, Sang Ji comes to the office and meets with Jiaxu, which really worries her. Jiaxu firmly asks Sang Ji to let him know before meeting him at the office or at home. He is afraid that Sang Ji might run into Xiaoying and might hurt her. But Sang Ji thinks that Jiaxu doesn't like it if she immediately comes to see him like this. That day, Sang Ji comes to the office to give the smart bell to Jiaxu. With this bell, he can find out who came to visit his house so he can anticipate Xiaoying, who keeps bothering him. Another attention is again knocking on Jiaxu's heart, which slowly begins to open up to Sang Ji. Time continues to pass. The process of the game design in Jiaxu's company goes well, and during this time, he is very busy. Towards the end of the semester, Sang Ji keeps thinking about Jiaxu and hopes he will get an explanation. Soon after the exam, Sang Ji invites her friends to relax, and they all agree. Jiangming sings a love song on stage for Sang Ji, but she ignores it when Jiaxu calls. A slightly drunk Sang Ji says that she is at the bar with her friends, and Jiaxu rushes to pick her up. Seeing Sang Ji coming out of the bar, Jiangming immediately follows her. So Jiaxu comes just when Jiangming is trying to help Sang Ji, who has drunk too much. Jiaxu immediately takes over, and Jiangming has no choice but to leave. After Sang Ji says that Jiaxu is her older brother, Sang Ji, who is drunk, starts to feel nauseous, so she vomits in front of Jiaxu. That night, Sang Ji reveals a secret that she likes someone. But Sang Ji doesn't say who it is. She only explains that the guy is nice to all the women, and that makes her sad. Jiaxu doesn't know who the person Sang Ji is talking about is, but he feels uncomfortable with the confession. Jiaxu drives Sang Ji back to the dormitory, and the next day, Sang Ji wakes up upset thinking about what happened yesterday, especially when she accidentally vomited in front of Jiaxu. Her roommates are very excited. They often heard stories about Jiaxu but never thought that he was that handsome. Sang Ji then decides to return to Nanwu during the end of semester holidays. She has already bought a ticket. Jiaxu, who knows about this, comes to Sang Ji's dormitory to take her to the airport. While Sang Ji is loading her luggage into the car, Jiangming suddenly comes to talk to her and expresses his feelings. Sang Ji is confused, but then she remembers Jiaxu's advice about how to properly reject other people's feelings. Jiang Yu Ming accepts Sang Ji's rejection gracefully. After Sang Ji thanks him and explains that she already likes someone, Jiaxu watches everything from a distance and thinks that the man is the person Sang Ji likes. Strangely, he looks jealous all the way to the airport, and this is proof that he is starting to like Jia. Long story short, Sang Ji spends her holiday at home. Meanwhile, Canfei comes to have dinner with Jiaxu on his first business trip in Yijiao. Su tells a little about his romance and says that he is attracted to a young girl who unfortunately already likes someone. Joshu explains that the girl likes men who are nice to all women. Suddenly, Kainfei says that the man being referred to is Jiaoshu. Nyunfei then explains that maybe the guy the girl likes is Joshu because he is also nice to all the girls. Joshu denies it at first, but then he decides to find out. One day, Joshu goes to Nanwu to attend Qianfei's wedding. Sang-ji is surprised to see Joshu wearing the tie she gave him, and throughout the meeting, Joshu always jokingly claims that Sang-yan is his older brother. This makes Sang-ji even more confused, and actually, Joshu uses this opportunity to find out Sang-ji's feelings, so he observes Sang-ji's every behavior. Seeing that Sang-ji often misbehaves and makes inconsistent excuses, Joshu thinks that Sang-ji is indeed interested in him. After eating, Sang-yi refuses to go home. Unwillingly, Sang-ji says goodbye to everyone, but Joshu offers to take her home that night. For the first time, Joshu calls Sang-ji by her nickname Ji. This makes Sang-ji stunned for a moment. After taking Sang-ji home, Joshu gives her a bracelet with Sang-ji's initials engraved on it, as in Mayur's gift. Joshu's gaze seems unusual that night, making Sang-ji wonder what happened to him. Sang-ji then finds out about the meaning of giving bracelets, but she is disappointed after reading an article which states that it is only a form of attention from older people, and because of that, she doesn't want to wear it. Besides, Ju-soo struggled all night to get the Sing flight ticket as Sang-ji so he could return to Yi with her. At the airport, Ju-soo meets his high school classmate who accidentally mentions Ying and says that Ju-soo is dating her. Like and comment for part 2, subscribe for more.